I'm Sith King.
And I'm Sonic Sons.
We're the Rambling Reviewers.
And for our 99th episode, we're looking at Pacific Rim Uprising.
Yeah, we really got to think up what, our 100th episode is going to be.
We've batted around some ideas off camera.
Yeah,
here.
We would do... Homestar Runner, but we already did that.
Yeah.
Mob Psycho 100, but, nah.
Yeah. The word 100 isn't enough to qualify that.
Yeah, we need something that connects back to our roots. We'll think about it over the course of this review.
I say, as though I don't already have an idea. So anyway, Pacific Rim Uprising.
The sequel to Pacific Rim. This movie is...
I would call it a worthy successor. It's just not as unique as the original. And I think a lot of what we're going to say is something you said to me right after we got to the end credits. You said, this felt like a season of a TV show compressed into 2 hours.
But done well.
They do a good job of compression.
We've already done a review of a movie that compressed a season of a TV show down into 2 hours.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Avatar. We're
no.
The Last Airbender. We still have the scars. We have so many fucking scars.
Battle wounds.
Yeah, but it seriously did feel like that. Part of it is, but done much, much better. Well, for one, they actually acted. For another, they had actual plot points.
Yeah.
For three, it wasn't insulting us.
Yeah.
And for four...
Ong!
No, it's not ong. It's... ong. Which I think is the sound that one of the kaiju made in this film.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So yeah, the plot comes very quick, and it keeps up the pace pretty much always. There's always another plot point happening.
Which is good and bad.
Yeah.
Good because it means you can have a lot of story.
Yeah.
Bad in that you wish that a lot of this story was expanded upon.
Yeah.
Okay, so it starts off... The movie stars not one of the characters that we saw in the previous film.
Nope.
It instead stars Jake Pentecost, the never-mentioned son of Stacker Pentecost from the first film.
Who apparently had a falling out with his father earlier before the events of the first movie.
Exactly, and who Mako apparently never felt like
mentioning.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of retconned. Oh.
Yeah, oh well. Anyways, so we see him living in California, near a Jaeger scrapyard, where he's selling Jaeger parts. Well, stealing Jaeger parts.
He steals them from decommissioned sites, and then he sells them to people.
Yeah, one thing I do really like that this film does is it shows how the world has advanced in some ways. And new problems that have come since the end of the Kaiju War. For example, now people are... Since Jaeger technology is more widespread now, there are instances of people building their own Jaegers and going on rampages. Which is a legitimate concern, you know. We have problems with modern technology falling into the wrong hands in this world.
Yeah.
Imagine how bad it could be with giant robots.
Yes.
Okay. Like, you see more holograms in places. You see more advanced weapons. You see... Later we see this in Sydney, that there's massive cannons emplaced around in case of another kaiju attack.
And there's all these Jaeger parts to steal, so Jake goes off stealing them.
Yep. So he goes into this old abandoned Jaeger with some thugs who are trying to buy Jaeger parts from him. And it turns out that the Jaeger part is gone, so they're going to kill him. Well, he manages to outwit them, and it turns out that the Pan-Pacific Defense Coalition is... Well, they don't like it when you steal from their stuff. So they manage to follow Jake and the real thief back to the real thief's hideout. Her name is Amara. She is...
some sort of age. Maybe 14?
No, it can't be 14 based on the flashback.
Well, nothing makes sense based on the flashback. She should be 18, and she doesn't look 18 at all, unless she's just really young looking for an 18-year-old.
Yeah, like Callie from Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, I never know.
I mean, she looked like she was like, what, 13?
I don't know.
But no, she was full adult. Anyways, turns out that Amara has built a Jaeger in this abandoned shed.
Woo!
I have so many questions here. How?
Yeah, when I first saw that, I assumed there was like a team behind it, and we were gonna meet them later. And nah, she apparently did it by hand, by herself.
Yeah, because building giant robots isn't a thing that you need years of schooling and engineering for.
I mean, it has been 10 years since the war ended, but you know, she was apparently 8 or 7 years old when that happened. So
yeah,
she got started early, is what I'm saying. Kid genius or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, Effie from Overwatch, I could buy that because they live like 100 years in the future, and she's got like all these grants and stuff, and she lives in Mumbani, the most technologically advanced nation on the planet. So I'm willing to give Effie from Overwatch a pass rather than this kid who grew up in a junkyard.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't really bother me, though. It was,
I mean,
I like
the
kid genius
idea. It's just that this is the thing, you know, we find bits that make no sense and make fun of them.
Yeah.
And then they take it out for a joyride, managing to evade a full-sized Jaeger for a bit.
I think the best part of that thing was when the full-size Jaeger sees them rolling around and says, seriously? Like, come on,
yeah,
no,
like,
guys, come on.
Up until that point, he was all like, you could have been pre-programmed messages blaring out, surrender immediately, get out of the rogue Jaeger, blah, 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 blah.
And then, seriously, guys. And then they, like, briefly stud it, and by briefly, I mean all about 30 seconds before they take him down. But yay for the little Jaeger named Scrapper that put up a good fight.
Yay. Let's see.
And I should mention that Jake and Amara wind up in the same cockpit there, so there's a little of getting to know each other in the middle of this chase fight scene.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Then Jake is hauled into the PPDC's police place.
He gets taken to jail.
Yeah, but this place has the PPDC logos all over the place.
He gets taken to PPDC jail, whatever.
I guess
he gets
this
detained.
Is security office.
Detained, yeah, security office, fine.
Yeah, so, and then we see Mako Mori appear on on a hologram.
Yeah,
which,
Mako.
again, it's a nice nod to how advanced technology has gotten, how things have changed. And it's a nice way to say, hey, remember that really awesome girl from the first movie that everyone absolutely loved and said was one of the best parts of it? Yeah, she's in this movie. Get ready to get fucked over later, bitch.
Also, her hair doesn't have the blue tips anymore.
Well, I mean...
it makes sense that she might change her hairstyle, but anyway.
Yeah, she changes her hairstyle so it looks more official and stuff, but still, what happens later just pisses me off. She says, hey, guess what? You're going to jail, brother. He goes, no, I don't want to go to jail. Well, too bad. There's only one other way out. I'm interested in this way out. Join the PPDC again as a ranger. I don't like this way, but I don't have a choice.
He gets off pretty easy considering he had priors and everything. He's just like,
yeah,
so your punishment is you get to be a superhero. Ha! You know?
Okay. That's kind of what they did with the Hulk.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm sort of doubting that Jake wrecked Manhattan.
Yeah, it's true.
So we're shuttled with him and Amara to this new base with a new Shatter Dome with all these new Jaegers. Which brings me to an interesting question. Where did all these Jaegers come from?
They built them sometime.
Okay, no. I get that they built them. But why, though? The war was over. They closed the breach. Why did they build more Jaegers?
You know, this is...
Oh, wait. I think I might know, actually, then. You know, just thinking about it. Remember how they said Jaeger technology was freely available?
Yeah.
I bet most of these were meant to just police the use of
rogue
Jaeger technology.
Yeah. See, but that is going to get to that central point we're going to keep hitting, is that if they'd only had more time, they could have expanded on that. They could have been, you imagine, an episode of the show where they're learning, like, police tactics in Jaeger form, and how to, like, tell rogue Jaegers to knock the hell off, you know, and how to detain people without killing them, and all the stuff that you would need to know.
Which would explain how that blue Jaeger at the start had tasers.
Yeah, like a
Jaeger tasers.
Yeah. And then you could imagine that Amara is really obsessed with running the simulations against kaiju, like running the old programs and stuff. And occasionally her superiors are like, why do you bother with that? Like, you know, the war is over. You need you to focus on your studies. And she's obsessed with this because her backstory is that her family got killed by a kaiju. And this turns out to be super useful because the actual shit goes down and we need to fight kaiju at the end of the season.
Yes, exactly.
See? If only you had more time.
Which is kind of weird because we see later on that there's this new group called Shao
Industries, yeah.
Run by Liuan Shao, who mostly speaks Mandarin, but it turns out that Newt from the last film is working for her. Which really should have raised a bunch of red flags for me, because Newt is a biologist specializing in kaiju.
Yeah.
And Shao Industries doesn't have a biology department.
Yeah.
So why the hell was he working there?
I think that was part of the reason why when Newt first showed up, I didn't recognize him immediately. I needed to see him, like, in arm's reach of some alien biology that he's messing with.
Oh, no, he doesn't need to be in arm's reach.
Well, not
he needs to
reach.
be elbow deep in some alien biology.
Yeah.
Dude, he could work so well with Dr. Valen in dissecting aliens in XCOM. Yes. XCOM.
So yeah, I mean,
anyways,
in the case of 10 years, he may have like learned other skills.
So what happens next is you shoot down your first battleship and begin to recover the technology for Oh, I'm sorry, I was thinking about XCOM.
Does XCOM shoot down their own battleship? Oh, you shoot down enemy. Okay,
enemy battleship.
I was gonna say, you said you shoot down your first battleship. I'm like, that was a dumb use of a shot.
You shoot down the battleship, which is now yours.
Okay, it's yours.
It's like your first kill.
Okay, I get it.
Okay, so let's
military tactics. Do not shoot down your own battleship before it's yours. I get it. All right. No, after it's yours. Okay.
We're gonna move on now. And it turns out that all of the PPDC is really upset with the Shao organization because they want to have
they're got drone Jaegers, which are piloted remotely. Which and everyone feels like that's a bad idea because drones can potentially be hacked.
Well, okay, no, that Mako brings it up.
Yeah.
Everyone else seems to just bring it up because pilots are the only way
true.
to pilot it.
One guy was like, we need pilots, not desk jockeys. I'm like, you guys could just have a pilot at the desk, Like, it'd still be the same guy. He's just at a different location.
Yeah, it's...
it
comes across more of as... Imagine before gas-powered cars were common and it was coal-powered cars. It comes across as, the coal people being upset that gasoline is coming.
Yeah, like a more self-interest thing than a good for the...
Exactly. Which, okay, I get it. This is your livelihood. This is the way things have always been done. But...
Well, see, there again, if we had more time, we could establish more reasons for friction between them and Shao. Like, let's say, they had thought they would get hired to be the drone pilots, and then Shao, for mysterious reasons, is all like, no, I'm hiring my own people, and screw you. And then, if we want to do this angle that drones can potentially be hacked, you could have an episode of the show where the Yakuza or something hack a Jaeger, and we have to, take it down, and they're like, see, you have a problem. And Shao's like, don't worry, the new model is immune to that hack,
For an episode of the show, how about this? The Yakuza have managed to scavenge a Jaeger that was scrapped midway through the war because they tried making drone Jaegers back then, and it didn't work.
Oh.
Because, let's be honest here, your Wi-Fi connection can break inside of your own house, much less in the middle of a monster attack.
Oh, man, what's the password, guys? What's the Wi-Fi? Which network are you on?
Oh, it's in Chinese. What's the Chinese equivalent of capital C?
I'm sure.
Why is the password El Passwordo in Mandarin?
Somewhere a philologist is crying.
Okay. But, you could expand on why this is a bad idea. I mean, a lot of potential there.
And then you could get more into the deal. Like, obviously, there's the implied bit of, is Shao in this for the safety of the world, or is it more just profits for her own sake? Is it a business apparently, and not part of the government?
Or is she planning on being evil and using her army of drone Jaegers to take over the world?
Yeah, I thought that was going to be the thing, honestly.
Yeah, I did too.
So I'm glad they didn't go that way because it was more surprising.
I didn't think it would go that way because we saw the trailers and it showed the giant monster there.
Oh yeah, I was not thinking about the trailer at the time I formulated that theory.
Yeah, but anyways, they show off the new drones, and then we're back to the pilots, I guess. The Amara. Amara is introduced to a bunch of other pilot cadets. And let me just say this right now. These pilots are way too fucking young. These would fit in as pilot candidates for Ava units.
Yeah.
And those guys were like 14.
Exactly 14.
Look, I'm not saying that a kid in the cockpit is a stupid idea. I am saying that right now. It's a stupid idea. But I understand that it's a common thing in anime and manga. Here's the problem, though. This is supposed to be the Pan-Pacific Defense Coalition. They're supposed to be a military organization working under the auspices of the United Nations. They should have people old enough to drive driving their robots. I mean, these people should be at least into adulthood. Because I can't imagine...
I mean, there is, in real life, there's there are programs where you can be not in the military, but training military style under the, during your teenage years, under the hopes that you will become military later in life. Yeah. But that's again, if we had more time, this is how we would play it. There's a much larger body of fully adult Jaeger pilots. This is like, I'm going to say ROTC is what I was just talking about. And Jake is assigned to train these people specifically because he's the criminal type and we don't want to give you anything more important to do. So fine, you train the kids, but the rest of us have more important stuff, right? And then, if you want the kids to be involved in the plot, then our traitor, we'll get to in a moment, blows up all the adult pilots as part of a scheme, and the kids are the only ones remaining,
Okay, and can we scroll down a bit?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Okay, now all of these characters are incredibly detailed and deep, by which I mean I don't remember their names.
I mean, you remember Victoria, or Vicky.
Okay, Vicky.
Yeah.
But the reason I mostly remember Vicky is not because of her deep and interesting character. She's basically a bitch. And again, let's play that old song and dance. Again. If we had more time, or this was an episode, we could get into why Victoria is a bitch. Yeah. But for the most part, I mostly remembered her not for her personality or for anything she actually did in the movie. Mm-hmm. I remembered her because she looked like the hybridization of Tasha Yar from Star Trek Season 1, Star Trek The Next Generation Season 1, and Ellen DeGeneres. But bitchier. She did and maybe with a hinting of Samantha Carter.
Oh, interesting.
There's a bunch of short-haired blonde people that I like.
Okay, cool. What was I going to say? Oh, you remember in first Pacific Rim, what was the name of that one pilot who was kind of a jerk, and his drifting partner was his dad, and I forget his name.
His last name is Hansen because the dad was Hercules Hansen.
Ooh, that's cool. There's Max, Hercules Hansen, Chuck Hansen.
Chuck Hansen.
Yeah, the Australian. So I remember that detail. Okay, so he was like the jerk of the group, and you're like, all right, I understand this. You're the one jerk here in the group, blah. But he also drifted with his dad, so okay, that was a father-son thing I'm thinking about, which they touched on when he goes to the suicide mission, and his dad's like, hey, that's my son with him, try and keep him safe. And the jerk ends up redeeming himself.
To a degree.
To a degree, anyway. And there was at least, let's say, 3 elements I could point to there. And Vicky, I kind of got the 1.5 or something.
She doesn't even really redeem herself so much as she stops being as much of a bitch.
Yeah. So it says it wasn't as much room to grow.
Do we need the cord?
Yeah. What?
Oh, it's not plugged in, so,
It's not plugged in. This is plugged in right
now. No.
Oh, the power cord. All right, cool. I'll go plug that in while you mention things.
More. Okay, so honestly, most of these kids are really forgettable. I mean, okay.
It's
they're not forgettable, but they could have been more.
Yeah, because we've seen plenty of movies before. Make the Avatar comparison again, where everyone is just so bland in the terrible movie,
or the Secret World movie.
What? They made an Avatar Secret World?
No, not Avatar Secret World. The French thing with the lizard people.
Oh, Extraordinary World.
Oh, yeah. That's... How could I have made that mistake?
Okay. Well, Avatar is the better example of people just being so bland as to be, truly forgettable. And this was okay, I remember Vicky's lines. I remember Suresh, the Indian kid, being like...
you remembered his name?
No, I remembered it from Wikipedia. But I remember him being the Indian kid. And he was, and there's just the one little moment he had, or 3 or 4 little moments maybe, Like when they're gonna go investigate that one Jaeger later, and she's like, "When will we have another chance like this?" He's like, "Never, never would be good." And there's attitude in that line. There's a bit of his own personality. So
attitude
you could
in his cowardice.
So they did a good job of compression. In like 1 or 2 lines, you could be like, "Oh, okay, I get an idea of who you are," but it could have been more.
Exactly. Yeah. So then it turned. Mako is talking to Jake and says, "Oh, I'm going to vote no on this thing, this agreement at this Jaeger summit about whether drones should be allowed." Okay, and here's where it comes to the first really cool battle of the film. Mm-hmm. Although I don't know why, but it kind of feels off to me, and not just because of how the battle concludes. Okay, so they have the new sequel to Gypsy Danger, Gypsy Avenger.
Yeah, where is Gypsy Danger, by the way?
The Antiverse in about 1 billion pieces when they blew up the nuclear core.
Oh, right. Okay. I forgot. Because I remember
I can see how you could miss that. It was only the climax of the movie.
No. I remember the pilot surviving, and for a moment I assumed that the ship survived with him. But right, he blew it up and he did the ejection. I remember this now.
Yeah. So, and we'll get to Raleigh in a bit, too. God, and Mako. God fucking damn it. Anyways, so to escort Mako, who is now the leader of the Pan-Pacific Defense Coalition.
Is she the leader? Or
I'm pretty sure she's the leader.
I thought she was just like a member of the High Council or something.
I don't know. Anyways, because of that, she's escorted by Gypsy Avenger, which is flown in by helicopters, which looks way sillier in broad daylight and not at night, silhouetted by rain, like it was in the first movie.
I still thought it was cool, but yeah, it was cool. Nighttime gives everything another layer of coolness.
Oh yeah, it does. So they touch down, but suddenly something's coming out of the water, and it's... But wait, hasn't the breach been closed for 10 years? This can't be the start of a new... It's another Jaeger.
Dun, dun, dun.
With darker armor, orange lighting on all sides. Yep. It looks sinister as hell. When I first saw it, I honestly thought that the precursors had found a way to open undetectable breaches, had rebuilt Gypsy Danger, and had built this thing.
Oh man, evil Gypsy zombie Danger from the dead.
Exactly.
That'd be pretty cool.
So I thought, hey, oh my god, this is something really cool. I mean, I can't remember what it was called.
Obsidian Fury.
Oh, that is a cool name.
Yeah, right?
Hey, wait a minute. That's the name of the dragon that Hiccup trained in How to Train Your Dragon.
His name was Toothless.
It was the Night Fury.
Oh, the Night Fury, yeah.
So, okay, all we need to do is get a Viking boy to press his hand to its forehead, and that'll tame it.
Whoa!
And Gypsy Avenger gets its ass kicked. It doesn't help that this thing dual wields wrist-mounted fiery chainsaws.
Yeah.
That, I don't care about the rest of the fight. That was just fucking cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was.
It was. So, it kicks the ass utterly and completely of Gypsy Avenger. But Gypsy Avenger does get in a few good hits, so it's not a complete curb stomp battle. Unfortunately, in the battle, Mako Mori is killed. Unceremoniously.
Wait, it's ceremoniously enough that they did all slow-mo and he tries to save her and he barely misses.
Yeah, but she doesn't get to defend herself.
Okay, yeah, that's true. She doesn't get to defend herself.
Mako Mori was a badass.
Yeah.
She was... After the first movie, they thought of creating... Feminists created the Mako Mori test because she was such a strong female character. Really? Where it's a female character, has a subplot of her own that is not about a man.
Yeah.
It's a counterpart to the Bechdel test.
Yeah.
Which, for those who are uninitiated, it's where there are at least 2 female characters in a work who manage to have a conversation with one another, and it's not about a guy.
Yeah.
Mako Mori should have gone out. I'll explain how I think she should have gone out, or at least had an ending in this film. If she had to die, she should have done it in the cockpit of a Jaeger. Because... Yeah. Or... mounting one of those giant piloting one of those giant defense cannons they have in Sydney. That would have been awesome. Her standing defiant to the last, screaming, howling in rage as she pumps the trigger over and over again.
You know what? If we're going to do a thing where... So she's, by adoption, Jake's sister, right? And when they killed her off, I was like, oh, wow, this is pretty bold, and there's the emotional moment there, and it brings, Jake into this on a personal level. But what could have been, what you could have done to get her involved and to still give Jake his moment would be if, he's only been drafted into the Jaeger program against his will. And maybe danger's happening at some point, and he's reluctant to get involved. Maybe uses some bullshit excuse like, oh, I didn't get orders, necessarily, so maybe I'll just stay here. And then before he realizes it, suddenly the danger is that much bigger and innocent people are at risk, and he didn't realize it was going to be that big of a deal. And suddenly Mako jumps in her own Jaeger and saves the day, right? And kicks the crap out of a bad guy and dies in the process.
What if she dies piloting it solo and the strain is too much for her?
Yeah!
Like that.
Yeah, he didn't show up that day because he had a bullshit excuse or something. She just jumps in, right? And
I was thinking that he was in the cockpit of Gypsy Avenger, and he's fighting against Obsidian Fury. And then Mako gets in a Jaeger, but because of Obsidian Fury causing damage, the other pilot is killed or badly wounded. So she gets into a Jaeger and pilots it solo,
right.
Just like Raleigh did, and just like Stacker Pentecost did.
Yeah, I kind of want to throw another layer in there where if Jake had done the right thing, he could have been her co-pilot, but he was, made a bad decision at some point somehow or other. And didn't realize it would put her in risk, or that she would put herself at risk or something.
Oh, please. He's related to her. He knows she's going to put herself at risk.
Okay, but he didn't know she was there at the time, or he thought she was doing something else. Point is, give him an element of guilt is an excellent way to give a character an arc, to overcome their mistakes. So yeah, Mako gets all bold where Jake was, shirking his duty. Mako dies. Then Jake not only is sad for Mako, but also has to learn from her example. You have to run into the fight. You can't avoid your destiny, as it were, or where you're needed most, Because he's been doing that for 10 years, in a way.
Okay. However, I would have to say that she would have to die in an awesome manner.
Oh, of course.
Driving Obsidian Fury into the ocean.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, she's just dying for the development of a male character.
Yeah. Obviously.
The women in refrigerators.
I was trying to say, if she's going to die at all, then yes, that death will propel other characters. But in the meantime, of course, you want to see the climax of her own narrative arc and so forth. You could have a small element in there which she's not currently listed as a Jaeger pilot because some bureaucrat decided she was too old, or she got injured sometime in the last 10 years or something, and she's like, damn it, I'm doing this anyway, and just proves, that she's better than someone you thought she was, or something like that, Well, the ways you could put her own narrative spin onto it.
Okay, but back to the actual plot, and instead of us complaining, it's going to be us complaining anyways. Okay, yeah, actually, let's not go back to that yet.
Yeah.
Because what happens next is that it's somber around the base, because Mako Mori's dead. For all of a minute. And then it goes...
It's really quick. Yeah.
It's really quick.
Again, good at compression, but it was...
And the actors act it well.
Yeah.
The problem is that this was a huge character from the first movie, and everyone... She helped end the war... And everyone just kind of brushes it off. Which really ticks me off because it's not given the weight narratively that it really should have.
He does mention her again in his speech near the end, and he does talk to Amara about it briefly before her chasing the rabbit moment. But yeah, you could do yet more with it. And while we're on that track, actually... You were going to mention at some point, whatever happened to Raleigh?
Yeah, Raleigh is not mentioned.
Our main guy from the first movie.
The main character, whose story arc we followed, and who actually ended the war himself, piloting a Jaeger solo multiple times, which is an impressive feat that usually just fries out people's brains. and he's barely mentioned.
Yeah,
Oh, we don't have any pilots left. Really? Well, what happened to him? What happened to Raleigh?
I wouldn't even...
I thought he had this thing going on with Mako. I had this whole thought that they would get married after the war and have kids.
Yeah.
So what the hell happened?
Oh, I'm gonna go with, because we're brainstorming stuff anyway. I mean, if he's not gonna show up, which is not a given in our hypothetical story, but if he's not gonna show up, he has to be dead, right? So they have to come up with a reason for how did he die post-war. And let's say he got killed by a rogue Jaeger in a big old rogue Jaeger battle, right? If that's what we're going into our previous angle about Jaegers currently are just trying to handle rogue Jaegers, you know? So, okay, there's criminal syndicates and whatever, and he got killed, and Mako is grieved that loss, and then, yeah, she's still badass.
Oh, but what if she was the partner in that battle? His Jaeger partner, and she got injured. Like, she has a big old scar on her face that really does nothing, but it shows that she was injured at one point.
Yeah.
And that could be the reason why she was kicked out, making finger quotes here, of the program, and basically
she was kicked upstairs. Yeah.
She was kicked upstairs because, she might have trauma over it. She might get emotionally compromised. Yes, that is what Jaeger pilots do.
You could do an awesome thing there. She's going to solo pilot the thing, and that tends to fry your brain, and they were worried about her in general not being able to drift properly if you've got too much grief in your system or whatever. Just imagine she goes into battle, and in the midst of this really epic fight, starts talking to Raleigh as if he were the co-pilot. Like, she's lost just a little bit of her focus there, but in this other sense, like, he is with her because he's in her memories and all that, you know?
Raleigh, you ready the plasma caster? And she's got, like, a little hand puppet.
No,
right,
not...
ready the plasma caster!
Okay, not with hand puppets.
Oh, come on, hand puppet!
That could be really awesome and dramatic, though, you know? Frick, she said, "for my family" in Japanese at the in the first movie, right? After Pentecost died?
Yeah.
And she sliced the thing with a sword. How about "for my husband" this time? It slices. Of course, that is kind of, you know, not feminist enough, but it'd be kind of neat just to remark on the, you know, personal connection she had built since.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just do the "for my family" moment again.
Yeah, you could just say it again. That's honestly.
And say, she was buried next to her husband.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's like a freaking etching of Gypsy Danger, like on a shared tombstone, right? It's just like, name, Gypsy Danger's right there. Yes, like, guarding them in death.
Yes. Perfect.
See?
Okay.
We need time. Time to explore these things.
Here's where we run into a problem, though. Jake, while he's mourning the loss of his sister, the last link he has to his father, he runs into Amara trying to drift with a severed brain.
Yeah, they just have that, apparently.
I think, like, maybe it's cloned or something.
Yeah, I got a real flashback to the Magi from Neon Genesis.
Wait, those were brains?
They were computers, but they also had a brain in them to, like, do some of the processing.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was literally that scientist lady, her mother's brain.
Like there. Clones of the brain?
Yeah, like a clone of the brain. But also there was a computer. Anyway.
Wait, so... could we play StarCraft on it?
Depends on whose brain you're using and how much they like StarCraft.
Okay. Shinji, we're receiving new instructions from the Magi. You need to defeat the angel. You must construct additional pilot. Who's been playing StarCraft? Who's been playing StarCraft?
Yeah.
God damn it, Gendo! Stop playing Protoss. For the Horde, motherfuckers! Actually, I think that...
Wait, the Horde is a World of Warcraft. For the Zerg Hive, yeah.
Yeah, well, Zerg are like a Horde.
Yeah, they are.
Anyways, so Jake tries drifting with Amara, and that ends up with another chasing the rabbit moment. A callback to the first film where Mako had one when trying to drift with Raleigh for the first time. But this one just raises so many questions.
Yeah, it wasn't as cool. It wasn't as poetic.
Where she witnesses her family literally get stomped on by a kaiju. Okay, question one. How is there not an alarm system in place? Because...
Well, we should say what happens. She's on a pier at the ocean somewhere, and a kaiju suddenly steps on the thing and, like, separates her from her family.
It's like Bambi versus Godzilla played seriously.
But Godzilla is really quiet this time. It's just like, nothing is... And then boom! And suddenly that... Like, how did that get there and nobody, like, noticed a dang thing at all?
Yeah, okay. When did this happen in the war? Because, given how old she appears to be, this should be around the time that the Wall of Life should have been cutting off all of the ocean from the... from the land. Also, by that point, everyone of any worth was moving inland to avoid the kaiju attacks, leaving the poor and the destitute living on the coasts. That's why that makes no sense, because otherwise she'd be like, what, 25 years old? And she is not 25 years old.
Right. No. It should be a 10-year minimum. So, obviously, even if it was at the very end of the war, that would still be... She ought to be, like, 5 in the flashback if she needs to be 15 in the present.
But there's just so
She's
many
like 8 in the
lore
flashback.
problems with the lore here. Like, if the kaiju is here, these people... There should be alarms going off. There were sensor buoy networks in place. They should have monitored this ever since it emerged from the breach, and it slowly narrowed down the funnel of where it could attack.
Yeah, like a approaching hurricane. Or even
Which is where the category system for kaiju comes in.
Oh, right, yeah.
They even make a comparison to that at the beginning of the film.
Oh.
Some things are so big you can't stop, like a hurricane. But when you're in a Jaeger, you can fight that. You can fight the hurricane and win. Well, something to that effect.
Yeah.
But there's no reason why her family should have been there. There's no reason why there was no monster alerts. There's no reason why this wasn't way far inland. Because the ocean is fucking dangerous in this timeline, at this period in history. Unless this is Trespasser, and Trespasser just decided to go back around, in which case she'd still be in her mid to late 20s at this point, and she does not look that.
Yeah. You know, if they wanted to keep her young and yet be affected by the war, they had to have had this tragedy happen when, well, it could have been when she was much younger, first off. She could have been like 4 years old or something when her family got crushed. And they could have been crushed while they were attempting to flee a kaiju, or were already in a shelter and like the roof collapsed because, we didn't engineer it quite well enough. Didn't know how big that thing was going to be.
Which would be a nice callback to the first film. Remember Hannibal Chow? He had a scar where his eye was like gouged out or something. And that's because he said he was in a public shelter. And it didn't hold up.
Yeah. That would have worked really well.
By the way,
you could I'm thinking of Jaws all of a sudden, and how much they didn't show you the shark, right? And you were just like anticipating it and how scary that could be. This is a movie where you see a lot of the monster, but here's a great scene where you don't see it at first. And they're in the shelter, everyone's kind of huddled, and there's this thumping from above, and stuff is shaking, and the dust is falling off of shelves and stuff, and you don't know what's going on. And then finally, suddenly the foot smashes right through the ceiling, kills people, and then like retracts as the monster keeps walking, and she looks up through the hole and sees like the face of the kaiju briefly, you know?
Why would she? Okay. My biggest problem with what you've just said is that there was a commercial for the 1998 Godzilla that went exactly like that.
Well,
that is almost identical to the scene like what happened in Pacific Rim with Newt.
Okay, yeah. Maybe I was just flashing back to that. I forget. Anyway, just throwing out ideas. Point is that her flashback didn't exactly add up, and Jake, mourning for the loss of his sister, his stuff doesn't come up in the midst of this drift. Like, we needed to move on to get to Amara's stuff, but he just got memories too.
Yeah,
There's
just
no time
lost
for
his
that.
sister.
Yeah, he could have they could bring up memories of that, or memories of his dad,
He had a touching
or both.
scene where he put down a picture of Stacker Pentecost, Mako Mori, and himself in the same shot.
Yeah, that was nice.
Which admittedly looked a little bit photoshopped, but I could be wrong. I'm not saying that. Like I said, this would be a good episode or two. Like, he's trying to distance himself from his problems, so he's trying to teach Amara to be a better pilot.
You could imagine a whole little mini arc where he considers quitting the program and then decides to, get back in the fight.
Exactly. Meanwhile, Newt's discover.
I should mention, by the way, this guy named Nate, because he's shown up in a bunch of scenes, and we haven't mentioned him at all yet.
Yeah.
He's that military-type guy who runs the cadet program, but I guess Jake is a step under him. Because Jake is supposed to be training these kids, but, like, Nate is always telling them what to do. So I guess Nate is, like, senior officer, and he's a junior officer.
They mentioned that he was a higher rank than Jake.
And Nate is... he knows Jake from olden days or something? Because they seem to, like, have a vibe back and forth, the way they talk. And he even said something about, later on, he's like, oh, when you join this program, your family, no matter how much you screw up, he looks at Jake, you forgive those people. And you're like, oh, do you have a deeper bond that you never got time to tell us what it was exactly?
Yeah, I have a question.
Have you gone into battle or something?
It's like they're implying that Jake left the program by stealing a Jaeger or doing something really bad and getting kicked out. But we later learned that Jake tried to pilot a Jaeger solo like his dad did, walked 2 steps, and collapsed.
So, did he do that without authorization, I'm guessing? It's kind of like stealing.
I'm guessing, but let's be honest here. Jaeger pilots are arrogant bastards. We see that with Yancey and Raleigh in the beginning of Pacific Rim. I mean, they're pilots. They're like rock stars. They're going to do stupid shit, and yet Stacker Pentecost kicked him out of the program.
Well,
but honestly, that doesn't sound that bad comparatively. The way they treat him, it's like he decided to sell secrets of this thing to the Iranians.
Well, if they treated him like that, they wouldn't bring him back into the program.
Well, it's clear that they wouldn't have if, you know.
Well, no, they don't bring him in under a sense of crisis, like, oh crap, the kaiju are back, we're bringing in everyone we can. They bring him in because, all right, pal, you're in trouble. We'll do you a favor by helping you stay out of jail. So they seem to like him that much. I think what they're trying to get at is less of he's anathema to the rest of the program as it is he felt that he'd failed his father and felt such a personal sense of failing that he didn't want to try again. And again, could have explained that more.
Yeah, they could have explained that better.
Yeah.
Again, if this was a series.
Yep.
So, yeah, there's also a character named Reyes.
Oh, yeah, she existed.
She existed. I don't remember anything she did except for kiss both Nate and Jake.
Like on the cheek, yeah.
Yeah, and
like there's a thing like where Jake is kind of casual arrogance, like, hey, maybe she likes me, and Nate's like, I don't think so. And then there's a bit where they're in a tumble, and basically Nate and Reyes wind up together, and Jake is a funny moment where he's like, seriously, now?
Which really was okay. We'll get to that when we get to it.
Fine.
But Reyes is a pointless character. You could have removed her from every scene and changed nothing.
It once again feels like she had more to do if she had had time to do it in.
Yeah.
Okay, so where were we there? So we had fought Obsidian Fury. Mako dies.
So Gottlieb managed to get a partial transmission from Mako before she died about like an island. Oh wait, okay, I figured this part out now. She was using her tricorder iPad thing to scan the Obsidian Fury while it was fighting and identified the energy signature as having come from this one island where they used to manufacture Jaeger energy cores. They eventually figure this out, and they send Jake and Nate in Gypsy Avenger. Wait, Gypsy Avenger?
Yeah.
Gypsy Avenger to this island. Now, me, personally, if I thought this was the stomping grounds of an evil rogue monster that had previously beaten the shit out of me, I'd have brought like 30 helicopters, couple tank divisions.
Or just more Jaegers. Yeah.
I was going to say, and more Jaegers.
Yeah.
But no, go in alone. That way, you'll be totally blindsided when Obsidian Fury blows up the facility and then tries to kick Gypsy Avenger's
Obsidian
ass
Fury hits them in the back of the head with a missile, And as cool and kind of funny as that was, it was also like, do you not have any radar on this advanced robot? That
I
can
mean,
be
we
like,
see that they're
there's a
capable
thing
of,
right behind us.
They're capable of spotting the mini kaijus later, and those are like the size of a car from several kilometers away. This thing is the size of an aircraft carrier, is firing missiles at you, and is walking towards you.
Yeah.
It also has a nuclear reactor in its chest. It's a Jaeger. It doesn't have a stealth mode.
Well, honestly, when it shows up at Sydney the first time, I thought it was going to be explained. It has a stealth mode that used like underwater to get close enough, you know?
Well, I assume that was because a lot of the stuff was dismantled in the wake of the Kaiju War ending.
Oh, well, yeah, but even so, I thought it was going to be like stealthier than we expected. They had got past our things. Whatever. Yeah. So anyway, they fight it, and they actually win this time. Hey, single-handed.
And they do it by ripping off part of the head, and it reveals inside is no one. There's a Jaeger. I mean, there's a kaiju brain inside of there.
Yeah. Wow.
Didn't
see that coming.
It gets transported back. Oh yeah, earlier we'd seen that Newt at home had. Well, he mentioned he wanted to introduce Gottlieb to Alice. We later see who Alice is. A kaiju brain inside of his apartment with the word Alice written on in what looked like marker. That Newt drifts with every night.
Yeah. Spooky.
Yeah.
That's another
thing. You know, I mean, the weirdest part about that is not that he does that. It's not. It's that I could totally see him doing that, even before the revelations from this film. Just because I could totally see him going, yeah, I could do this. Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, as a character.
It's kaiju, man. It's kaiju.
Right, we're good.
Okay, so the PPDC takes the remains of Obsidian Fury back, and the cadets are all like, dude. Well, Amara says, let's go inside and look at it. Which is the stupidest thing that I've seen all movie, and that's saying something.
Yeah.
Because this thing is a fusion of Jaeger parts and kaiju parts. It's why it's able to move so quickly and so fluidly, because it's partly organic. And one of the important things that they discussed last film was Kaiju Blue, aka blue kaiju blood spilling everywhere and creating toxic hazards in the water. Kaiju Blue is literally toxic to humans. It will kill you in less than an hour if it touches your skin. And then so let's go into this thing that's probably dripping with Kaiju Blue, totally and completely unprotected. Oh yeah, and when it's probably being guarded by half the goddamn military.
Yeah, they just walk in there apparently. That didn't make sense.
Yeah, but and it turns out one of the guys gets stripped on by something, and he walks out with scars.
I laughed at that part. They're like, oh, what is this? Ow! And you're like, see, that's what happens when you go in there without gloves. So they have to call for help, and by doing so, they also bust themselves. Everyone else gets a reprimand. And
Mara gets kicked out, but it turns out that there was a good reason for Mara to do that. Because some of the parts that were inside of there that she saw came from Shao's corporation. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Sorry, I went Tarzan there.
Yeah.
So, at this point, the program to build a shit ton of drones all over the Pacific has gone through, and they're being delivered.
It's funny that they had to deliver them all at once, and not like, we'll do a pilot program with just 5 drones and see how well they work. Nope. All or nothing.
Yep. Gotta love the logic behind that.
Of course, this is the same UN that decided to build giant robots instead of just nuking the kaiju.
Actually, they did nuke the kaiju.
What, that didn't work?
Well, it worked. The problem is that they're all going towards your cities, so anytime you wanted to kill the kaiju, you're nuking your own cities.
The kaiju come out of a trench in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, put nuclear sea mines around it, and the job is done.
Okay, that actually is better. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
that would work really well. Oh, another kaiju. Boom! And he's gone. So we have like 30,000 nukes on this planet. I'm sure we could manage.
Okay, which that actually does bring up a plot hole later on in the film, but okay. Suddenly, all of the drones they're delivering go berserk. Because it turns out that Shao's corporation, that drone program, it didn't actually work. It was actually a kaiju brain inside of each of the Jaeger cyborg, inside each of the drones.
Yeah.
So it turns them into cyborg kaiju monsters.
Which is not revealed immediately, actually. First, they start all glitching out, and you think, I thought, well, maybe they're being controlled by the Shao lady to do evil or something. And Gottlieb runs into their offices to talk to Newt to say, hey, please help me, shut this whole program down. And then they get detained and taken into an elevator, and then they beat up the guys with guns that are holding them, which is a little ridiculous when, like, neither of you has any combat training, but okay, whatever.
You know what? It's funny. Let's go with it.
It was funny because, like, at one point, Newt is, like, grabbing at a gun with a guy who's trying to shoot him. He's like, hey, a little help, please. It's like, all right.
Think about Gottlieb is literally beating people with his cane.
That was kind of cool.
Which it breaks suspension of disbelief a little bit, because I could expect Alfred doing that.
Yeah.
This guy is not Alfred.
Yeah, no.
Not even close.
But he's, whatever, fun enough character that I live with it. So then they rush in, and Newt's like, cool, I have a back door into the system. Click, 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 click. And, he turns off the human control of the thing and activates the secret internal kaiju control.
Because it turns out that his next words are fairly dark. What are you doing? I'm destroying the world. It turns out that, remember how Newt had drifted with a kaiju brain back in the first one?
Newt, yeah, well,
the precursors kind of infected his brain.
Yeah, Newt and Gottlieb drifted. Now that I think of
Newt drifted solo first.
Yeah, okay. See, yeah, they did make a point of Newt would say, like, hey, I did it, more than you did. And now I realize why they said that, to make it clear why he got infected and the other one didn't. He's being controlled by the precursors, they're called. I could have sworn they called them the Masters in the first movie.
No, it's been established for a while now that they're called the precursors.
Whatever.
Anyways, the precursors have been controlling Newt. Or might be controlling
I don't think it's a remote control so much as it is gradually taking over more and more of his brain to think the way they do.
That actually makes more sense, yeah.
Because he argues with himself a little bit. Like, he nearly chokes Gottlieb, and then he's like, oh, Gottlieb, I'm sorry. Like, there's still a little Newt still in there.
So all the drones start gathering in clusters and shooting their chest beams at the ground, creating new breaches all around the Pacific.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dozens of breaches.
Dun, dun, dun.
Which, is pretty freaking scary. Fortunately, they managed... Shao... Lemon?
What? Lemon?
Who's... The Shao
lady.
Her
first name? Yeah. The Shao
But I can't
lady.
keep referring to them as Shao when there's a Shao Corporation and a Shao lady.
Okay. Li Wen.
Li Wen Shao comes in and threatens to shoot Newt unless he stops it. This doesn't work, but, he manages to escape and get out past guards because apparently precursors are masters of escape. Yeah, sure. Let's go with that. But Shao and Gottlieb managed to figure out how to turn off the drones.
Override the override, essentially, which, I mean, on the one hand, it seems plausible, because, of course, she is in charge of this whole corporation.
And she's
very
so smart. She's so smart, she helped design the drone program.
Yeah. On the other hand, it's sort of like, you'd think that your secret saboteur guy would have planned for the idea that his boss might not like his secret saboteur thing.
Yeah, but he's a biologist, so I didn't think that he was that great of a programmer.
Okay.
Anyways, and it's revealed that the way that Newt had set all this up was that 37% of the entire corporation was automated. So he was able to set all this up in secret because no one was watching the automated stuff.
There you go.
Which actually is kind of plausible,
Yeah.
Anyways, so they managed to close all the portals, but 3 kaiju managed to slip in that time.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, at the base, where was the base located?
I don't know. A base.
Meanwhile, at the Shatter Dome, where most of the stuff has taken place at, most of the characters' stuff takes place at, One of the Jaegers manages to kill one of the drone kaijus. It then gets killed along with the pilots. How did they kill the other one? Oh yeah, Newt activated the self-destruct. Gottlieb activated the self-destruct program, so that one just died on the spot. Fortunately, they're able to repair all the Jaegers in time because Shao brings over a shit ton of technicians, and they're able to get 4 Jaegers up and operational.
And the only pilots we have left are Jake and Nate and kids.
Yeah, because all the other pilots are gone.
From all around the world, they're all dead, apparently. We have no backup pilots anywhere.
It's weird. They mentioned that there were Shatterdome pilots who did manage to get in the way of some of them.
Yeah, I guess they all died, though.
Those guys died.
And Raleigh's just not around.
Yeah.
For some reason.
I guess also it might be a factor that they're going to make landfall very soon in Tokyo, and
yeah, but
there's a time crunch.
They did seem to have a day to do all the repairs and stuff. There's a whole montage of putting stuff together again.
How fast can you really pilot one of those things?
I don't know.
I mean, it seems like it would take a while.
Yeah. Okay. Science. So anyway, we gotta go. Oh yeah, and they found out the kaiju have a secret plan. In addition to the other secret plan we just mentioned.
Yeah, it turns out that there was a plot point earlier that Gottlieb tried to contact Newt about how kaiju blood is extremely reactive when combined with rare earth minerals. And it turns out that Mount Fuji in Japan is full of rare earth minerals. And that all the kaiju attacks from all over have all been vectoring towards Mount Fuji. Because if a kaiju throws itself into Mount Fuji, it will basically turn into a bomb, setting off the entire ring of fire. Where do I begin to describe why this is stupid?
Well, let's see. Number 1, not all the kaiju are heading to Mount Fuji.
Yeah, the very first kaiju was Trespasser, and that attacked San Francisco and headed inland.
No volcanoes around here.
The opposite direction of Japan.
Another one showed up in Australia and bumped up against the wall or something. Remember this?
Yeah, it busted through the wall and was taken out by that Mark V Jaeger.
Yeah, and then the map they had showed the kaiju approaching from all directions towards Mount Fuji.
When that means they would have to go completely around Japan and then vector back inwards instead of heading straight for Mount Fuji.
Yeah, and also apparently Mount Fuji is the only place with lots of rare earth minerals,
which is also bullshit.
And also, it's an active volcano.
That's okay. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt because this is like 30 or 40 years in the future.
Okay.
Well, at least. Wait, hang on. So Kaiju War went on for 10 years, and this is 20 years in the future. So Mount Fuji could have become active. It's not out of the question.
I mean,
the problem is that they don't have lava lakes are not common features on top of volcanoes. They're actually very rare.
So normally it's just kind of a big tube that goes down to the darkness, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, or actually, based on what I'm seeing here about Mount Fuji, it's probably blocked with ice. So there would not be a giant crater full of liquid magma.
Yeah, I guess.
Now, if this was Hawaii, I could buy that, because that was a feature of Kilauea for many years.
Yeah,
but this is not that.
They couldn't go to there, though, because Hawaii didn't produce enough anime to homage to.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're gonna go...
Note to self, Hawaiian anime? Question mark?
Interesting.
Anyways, so we get a fight scene of all these Jaegers fighting against the kaiju in the middle of this...
Yeah, they got 3 of them now.
In the middle of Tokyo.
And everyone, literally everyone, has been evacuated to underground shelters. That's an amazingly efficient evacuation system you have there. Good for you.
Well, this is probably the same universe that Superman, the Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Our first video where they broke down everything and that whole city was destroyed. Jeez, I gotta think, what are we gonna do for the 100th episode? Maybe something that God damn it. It's just so confusing and so hard to think about this.
Yes, we say implausibly.
Yeah, it's a dawn of a whole new era.
It is a dawn.
I mean, if there's any justice in the world, we'll come up with something by the end of this video.
If only we could form some sort of a league.
No, that's just stupid. That is stupid and has nothing to do with what we're
No, that's
talking
true.
about.
That's a different movie.
Yeah, no.
I can't believe they made 2 of those, and I haven't even seen the first one.
Yeah, that's weird, you know? Anyways, yeah, so they're going... So a big brawl, and points where it's due. All of the Jaegers put in good fights.
Yeah.
All of them. Now, one problem I had with the original Pacific Rim is the other Jaegers did not put up good fights. The Category 5, the Mark 5, didn't do crap in the fight because of the EMP. Cherno Alpha got taken out, and then the red one got taken out.
Oh, yeah, that one. The
2
Chinese
Jaegers
one.
taken out, but they didn't really do all that much damage. I mean, granted, they didn't do that much damage here in this film, but they were showing us they were capable of handling these kaijus.
Yeah.
Then Newt decides, hey, no one's been in the garages of Shaw Industries ever. Presses a button. This swarm of bugs comes out of Shaw Industries.
Car-sized centipede things.
Yeah, made more cyborgs that fuse the... They fuse the 3 kaijus together.
To form Megazord kaiju.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mega kaiju Zord.
He also lampshades. Oh, more giant robots. Real original.
Yeah, I like that. You know, harkening back to the old, if this was a TV series idea, this final battle, as cool as it was, would have been even cooler if we'd spent a whole season watching these kids learn various techniques and stuff, and then, like, actually putting them into practice, right? And then you would know the various relationships between everybody and everybody else, and it would be the payoff of, like, this person trusts that person to do that thing, and they overcame that flaw, and that helps them in battle in this way, and you didn't have all that detail.
No, we didn't.
No.
Also, I totally ship Amara and Vicky.
Yeah, why not? Let's do that.
Yeah, I ship it. I'm shipping it.
We need a ship name. Vamara? That works pretty well. Anyway. Oh, and then that one kid dies.
Pretty Mean Sisters. We'll call it PMS for short.
Oh, I didn't know.
Oh no, that is. I realized what I said as soon as it came out of my mouth.
Did you now?
No, I realized it before.
Okay.
I wanted to make a joke.
All right.
Because I'm me. Anyways, so in a nice little touch, at one point, Amara has to eject from her Jaeger, and she lands right next to the life-size statue of a Gundam.
Yeah, it was fun.
This is real. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it so goddamn much. Yeah, so eventually they realize, oh noes, we don't have enough power to do this. So they...
For Megazord. No, not really.
No, they... Shao comes out piloting Scrapper remotely, sending it to Japan with rockets to help, like, attach another rocket to Gypsy Avenger, which is now being co-piloted by Jake and Amara.
Yeah, because Nate got hurt.
Yeah. And it welds on the rocket to Gypsy Avenger, and they turn Gypsy Avenger into a missile that's...
I just want to be clear on this. They weld the rocket to Gypsy's palm. Not to the back, like jetpack style, but to the I'm holding on to a rocket for dear life style.
Please note that this would pretty much vaporize them because the exhaust would come through the open cockpit. This is the Kazinti lesson all over again. I mean, God damn it, people. You should not be dumber than the fucking Kazinti.
It was kind of like awesome and silly at the same time. Like, okay.
Yeah. At that point, we're kind of just along for the ride.
So they're flying off on this rocket, and the deal is now they're going to fly up really high because the Mega Kaiju is getting away, and it's going up to the top of Mount Fuji because apparently the rare earth minerals are only on the inside where the lava is and not anywhere on the surface of the mountain. I don't know how this works.
Yeah, you know, because that's how volcanoes work, don't you know?
Yeah,
none of
the surface is made of different materials than the magma. It's totally...
Yeah. You couldn't dig in, you know, using those massive claws.
Oh, that too.
Yeah.
So it's climbing up the side of the mountain, which I guess is really close to Tokyo or something.
Well, it is fairly close to Tokyo.
Okay, well,
And they turn Gypsy Avenger into a missile.
They have to go way up and then drop down and, like, hold their hands art Superman style while they go downwards and smack right into it. Yeah, I enjoy it.
We keep coming up with that. Jeez.
So, yes, this is awesome, and at the same time, are there no missiles in this universe? Because
are there no ICBMs?
Are there no
Seriously?
just cruise missiles? Are there no, like, tomahawks? Like, hit
Nuclear...
it with regular things.
I get it. You don't want to use nukes on a target in an inhabited country. You don't want to use nukes on Japan because that gets awkward. Here's the thing, though. If you don't use nukes on this thing, everyone will die. In the world.
In the whole world.
Even assuming the bullshit pseudoscience of we have to dunk this kaiju in magma to kickstart the Ring of Fire. But even leaving that aside, nuke this bastard.
Yeah, no, there's no one else to save the day here. We gotta do it. Gypsy's gotta do it. Okay, fine. So they fly up into the sky, and Amara's escape pod's already been used, so he's like, oh, you can use mine. And there's a moment there where she has to, like, detach from her harness to go grab his hand. He's like, hey, I'll grab you. And that's a callback to her backstory. So there's a little something there.
Stupid, canon-breaking backstory.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But anyway, she manages to trust him. And then freaking the thing doesn't work. And like, crap, we're going to die anyway. But then Scrapper shows up, and I always found this kind of endearing, because Scrapper was always kind of endearing.
Oh, it was.
Scrapper, like, has been, piggybacking this whole rocket ride, and, like, busts through the back to just grab them and save them that way. So then Gypsy Avenger becomes a missile and smashes the thing, and it dies.
Yep, and then Nate punches out Newt, and they take Newt into custody, and they tell Newt, we're coming for the... You tell the precursors we're coming.
We're coming for that. They're going to make a third movie is what they're saying.
Yeah. Which, okay, and that was the movie.
That was the movie. I mean, it was still fun.
It was absolutely fun. I loved it. It was great. But it was not the level of sophistication that the first one was. Yeah, it wasn't as well paced.
Yeah.
It wasn't as well... The characters weren't as memorable.
As fleshed out. It's hard to hit the level of the first one. It's also especially hard when you don't have the benefit of it being so new, the first of its kind. It was the first time we'd ever seen drifting. Like, oh, what a weird idea, And this is like, oh, now we've seen that before, so it's like not quite as new.
No, I don't mind the fact that it wasn't new. I love when worlds get expanded.
Well, that's true.
Make all these new connections, all these new ways that the technology has advanced and developed, all the ways that society has changed.
But then we've got, the connections that aren't made, like Raleigh never getting mentioned. So
well, he gets mentioned. It's just that
he? I didn't even notice.
Like once or twice, but he never shows up. You'd think that this would be, something important. Yeah. It's just the end of the world. Yeah. Maybe he's a farmer now. Although this doesn't explain why he doesn't show up for.
He should show up on the
memorial.
Yeah, in the memorial too. Okay. Oh yeah, about pacing though, I was gonna say I wish I could just show it to you side by side. The chasing the rabbit moment from the first movie. And first off, we were talking about how the backstory doesn't make any sense for Amara. But secondly, the pacing in that backstory, there was a moment of slowness and tranquility and stuff as Pentecost sees Mako for the first time. And there was the horrors of war, but mixed in with the possibility of a savior and the forming of a family bond, and it was slow and quiet, and a great contrast to all the franticness of the battle scenes. And this was not as much of a contrast. You needed more contrast points somewhere in there, I felt. Mm-hmm. It just kept going. I wanted, even just in little moments, there's a bit where Vic and Amara start brawling, and then Nate walks in and tells everyone to shut up, and something like, oh, well, we had she's fought me first, and he says, shut up, and there's a pause for a moment before he goes on with a little speech about how we're all family here, we need to be good to each other. That pause could have lasted a good, 5 seconds. The tension in the room as everyone's waiting what he's going to say next. just 5 seconds could do something. Instead, it was 1 second. You know, little things, little differences like that can really change up the pacing. And there was, throughout the movie, had little things like that. And again, it's still a good, fun movie. Just could have been more.
See how, and if there was, I wouldn't have killed Mako because
Yeah.
she really feels like a woman in refrigerators moment.
Yeah, all right, I'll give you. I mean, we came up with a better way to kill her, but I would love to explore the idea of just not killing her at all.
I think that it would have served the movie better if she'd survived badly injured from the helicopter crash, and she was just in
A coma.
But she wakes up by the end of the movie, and she's the one remote piloting Scrapper. That way, she's not doing too much to aggravate her injuries, and it allows her to still pilot a frickin' Jaeger.
Yeah.
When the thing we knew her for was piloting a fucking Jaeger,
You know
and
what?
getting vengeance for her family.
Yeah. You know what else? Give her time before that helicopter crash to meet Amara and talk to her, right?
It'd be a nice passing the torch moment.
Right, it'd be, because they've got stuff in common, having lost parents at a young age, right, and now getting involved in a Jaeger program, right? And Amara could, look up to her as a pilot and also as being the daughter of Pentecost, who is a war hero, obviously. And then Mako, in turn, could provide some perspective on what this is like and how to make it work and how hard it can be, but it's still worth it. And
Mako was a gearhead too. She was the one who oversaw the reactivation of Gypsy Danger, remember?
Oh my gosh. You know what? She gets talking to Amara. They get working on Scrapper, like, in their spare time, right?
Yes.
And then those, like, some of that technology ends up being used in the climax with Mako piloting to save Amara, right?
Exactly.
Come to think of it, I don't think this film passes the Bechdel test. Right? There were a few girls that didn't talk to each other.
Oh, yeah,
Mako
Vic-
was in there and died. Okay, Vic and Amara. That's right. That's
Okay,
true.
Vec and Amara, and they do talk to each other.
That's true.
It's bitching at each other, calling each other, failures and assholes.
At least they weren't talking about a man. So, okay, this passed the test. But you could do more in terms of female-female connections.
Exactly.
More characters could have talked to each
yes, the first one didn't pass the Bechdel test. This one does. But does it pass the Mako Mori test?
Yeah. The first one had Mako Mori, and she was badass. She's the one who came up with the sword all of a sudden that they hadn't used previously in that battle. But whatever, it was super awesome.
Okay, we didn't. Okay, that's the one thing everyone brings up. Why didn't they use the sword first? Well, guess what? Fuck you. That's why.
Yeah, right. We explained it.
That explains everything. Go fuck yourselves.
But yeah, no, that would be a perfect thing is the Gearhead connection, the Pentecost connection in terms of admiring him from afar and versus being his dad, the saving her at the end connection thing. Then that brings together Amara and Jake better if they're both worried that Mako's all injured, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, hey, he's worried because she's my sister, and she could even be. Amara could be mad at him, but like, well, yeah, if you're such a great brother, why weren't you involved more in her life or something?
Exactly.
Now there's like more play between characters, and then they have to get over that to work together, and then Mako shows up at the end, and it's like the three of them together again.
You could have them like get into an argument, but it doesn't resolve anything, and then Amara goes off, and that's when she has her little bitch fest at Vic.
Yeah. So everyone's got like multiple layers, and Vic has more layers in there too.
You know what I thought was gonna happen?
What?
I thought Vic and Amara were gonna be like, you're drift compatible.
Yeah, and they'd have to like get over their differences to make it work, and then we could ship them also.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Duh.
I was hoping, honestly. Remember Reyes, the girl who barely existed? I was thinking.
I thought she was a pilot. I was wondering what the hell she was doing.
Yeah,
what was she
doing? She just kind of walked around. I don't know what her deal is. They make a point at the end where she kisses Nate on the cheek, and then she kisses Jake on the cheek, and you're like, oh, she likes.
I remember all of
one or both of them, and I'm not sure what it was.
I remember all of the different interactions your character had with the others. Wait, no, I don't.
Anyway, I thought it would have been a neat little moment. If they hadn't had that first off, or I guess you could still have it in a different way.
You can still kiss people
in
a friendly way.
No, wait. The point I was getting around to is if since Jake was playing this like cool guy mentality of like, hey, I'm more badass than you guys realize, and you can tell he's kind of putting on an act. if he's making comments about how Ray's like probably totally likes him, and he like he's got a pretty face or something, and then Nate just casually says, "Yeah, actually she's gay," and then Nate,
I was about to say, don't go for that. Well, why not? Well, her wife wouldn't like it.
Yeah, and then Jake just looks at him and then for a long pause. Dang it! Like gets his ice cream.
Damn it!
Whatever
How are you? All the good ones are. Hey Nate, how are you? My boyfriend wouldn't like it either. Son of a bitch!
But yeah, no. So that'd be some LGBT representation, which I love on its own sake. But then also, it'd be kind of neat to throw Jake a curveball when he's trying to do this tough.
No,
cool
don't
guy.
even do that.
Yeah.
Just have just have Ray and working on a thing, and have her wife come up and just kiss her on the cheek.
Yeah,
and that's when you realize he's her wife.
Jake just
because that
sees
doesn't.
it. Yeah.
No. Don't even have Jake comment on
okay.
it, because that's what I really hate it when movies do that, where it's like, yes, I am the gay.
I know.
Woo!
I know.
And everyone's like, oh my god, you were the gay? Yes, I was the gay. See my boy and or girlfriend, depending on which I am.
Yeah. All right, I know you can make too big of a deal out of it, but I don't know. That just seems funny. But yeah, you can also do it the other way of just being totally casual about it. That's progress.
I prefer it that way.
Yeah,
honestly.
I understand that. And I also, in general, just give Ray's more things to do. She's gonna be around. Yeah. And they touched on the whole. Amara says to Jake at the end, your father would be proud or something. So, okay, you touched on that again.
How would you know? You never met him!
Well, he's a war hero. Everybody knows he's proud of war hero stuff.
Yeah, he was the one who came up with the cancel the apocalypse.
I do like how they referenced that. And it's like, that was a great leader. Also a great speechwriter. Did you see that speech when he canceled the apocalypse?
Yes. That is still a good speech. I love that speech.
Yeah.
It's stupid as hell, but I love it!
Yeah.
Want to know something weird?
What?
There's a My Little Pony Pacific Rim crossover fic.
Ooh.
I'm not kidding. Look it up. Midsummer Night. It has a TV tropes page.
Nice.
It has these two pilots get caught in an experimental weapon, and them and a kaiju are sent to the My Little Pony world. And then the precursors open up a portal to the Pony world as well.
Oh, yeah.
So they have to set up a Jaeger program in Equestria. It pretty much derails everything after season 2, and I'm not just saying that because I made my stance clear on post-season on Twilight Corn, but there's literally no time for Twilight to do that because she's busy helping build Jaegers.
Magic Jaegers, wow.
Also, Lightning Dust and Rainbow Dash drift compatible.
All right. Good luck with that.
Yeah. Oh, also Applejack and Big Mac drift compatible.
Okay.
Fluttershy is setting up a group that protests the Jaegers because they're cruel to the kaiju.
Oh, God.
Because of course she does.
Man, I thought she was going to do a 50 pilot Jaeger with all her animal friends.
You know, that's stupid, but at the same time it reminds me of something real.
Oh?
There was this series by William C. Dietz before I decried him as being a fucking idiot.
Oh, yeah, that guy from the Halo books.
Oh, no. He did one Halo book.
Oh, okay.
And that one actually wasn't too bad. It was The Flood, a novelization of the first game.
Yeah.
William, he's known for now is the last Mass Effect book, which had literally pages upon pages of errors.
Oh, no.
Both continuity errors, lore errors,
logic errors.
Oh yeah, that too. For example, there was a gay character in the Mass Effect books. William C. Dietz's book not only turned him straight, but killed him. Described a kid with rather severe autism as, I was just troubled when I was younger. I'm better now. I outgrew it.
That's going to cause some protests.
Well, I actually don't remember reading anything past that. I just kind of got a red haze over my vision, and then when I woke up, there was bodies. There were so many bodies.
Oh, no.
Okay, if you don't know, I have autism. I find it very offensive when people say that vaccines cause autism and that you can outgrow autism.
both of those statements are wrong. But onto what William C. Dietz used to do well was this series called Legion of the Damned, an outgrowth of the French Foreign Legion, except with cyborgs now, where if you are to be executed for a crime, there's a chance to save your brain and implant it in the body of a cyborg soldier, so you can live out your terms of service in the Legion and fight enemies. Well, they came up with something called the Trooper 3s. Before it was just Trooper 2s. And then they abandoned it for future books because William C. Dietz stopped giving a shit about being original and just started to do reenactments of famous battles except using laser guns.
Oh, right.
Trooper 3s were actually smaller and lighter armed than the Trooper 2s, but they had animal brains cybernetically implanted into robot buddies.
Wow.
So it's like what you said with the 50 thing. Midsummer Night is a good fanfic, though. We're really off topic. Pacific Rim Uprising. Also, what was Uprising?
Nothing. It's just a cool name. That's it.
That doesn't make any sense.
That's it.
Though.
You know, actually, that reminds me of another point I was going to make. One of the things I liked about Pacific Rim is they got around to talking about the other effects that the existence of kaiju had on the world. Like, well, for instance, Jaeger pilots being treated as rock stars. We saw them briefly doing like interviews and stuff.
We saw Hannibal Chow and his Jaeger,
and then Hannibal Chow and his whole thing.
Kaiju parts business.
And he mentioned that some people worship like a dead kaiju as their god. So like, oh, like the effects on society are going on here. And we didn't see so much of that in this film. You know,
I think it's part of it was that we were ultra focused on the plot instead of on the world.
Yeah, a little more world building.
We did see a little more on the world building, but it wasn't as much. Like, we get the sense that people are building Jaegers in their backyards.
Yeah, but we only see one of them. Also, by the way, when Obsidian Fury shows up at that one conference... Okay, wait, I guess I kind of know what they're up to. Because, like, on the surface, it looks like, wait, you're going to take down Gypsy Danger, maybe, and then just run away? Was that your whole plan? But the other part of it was because they did that, the drone program got voted into existence. So, okay. But Shao hadn't set that up. Newt must have set that up. Okay,
Newt set that up, right.
Okay, fine. So that makes sense.
Okay.
So overall, pretty good. So back to our recurring thing of what are we gonna do for our 100th episode?
Okay, well, there's been some things that have been going through my mind. Something about Superman. Dawn of a New Era.
Yeah.
And there's no justice in the world.
No. And
I mean, oh man, it's getting late out. It's the night.
It's the night. This is such a mystery. We need the world's greatest detective to help us figure it out.
Tune in next time
for Sherlock Holmes. No, I'm kidding.
I will kill you. Tune in next time for the 100th episode as we review the sequel to our very first episode, A Man of Steel. We review Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice.
And we will take the loving crap out of it.
Because
I've heard so many bad things. I haven't actually seen it. And now this would be the perfect time to see it. And take it down for the sake of movies everywhere. So thank you to all our viewer.
All 10.
There's one I can confirm because Wolfgang gave us a comment on the last video. Woo! So we know at least one person is watching these things.
Comment on this video.
Comment on this video if you exist and have heard this video.
And if you comment on this video, we will list your name in the next video.
Oh yeah, unless it's like a swear word or something terrible, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, because, I remember watching one of Drew Durnell's videos, and he lists all of his Patreon reviewers, and one of them is, Hitler did nothing wrong.
No, we're not listing that guy.
Well, actually, he goes, Hitler did nothing demonetized. Because it means that YouTube pulls all the subscribers from that channel. Anyways, yes, if you comment on this video, we will make sure to list every single person in the next video at the beginning.
Who says hi. So, thank you so much.
Unless we forget.
Well, we'll remember, I'm sure, somehow or other. We'll do it.
Also include a link to Midsummer Night if you're interested.
Yeah, we can do that. All right, so Pacific Rim. It's pretty cool. We'll see you soon. Batman v Superman. It's going to be great.
Anyways, I'm Sith King.
And I'm Suxons.
We're signing off.